Hello, everyone. I'm Jean-Claude at Beyond Mystic, and welcome to this deep woo-woo episode entitled Serpent Mound with Indigo Angel. You can find her work at Indigo Angel here on YouTube and on her website at indigoangel222.com, and finally on her Patreon, again at Indigo Angel. Let's give her a big warm welcome back to the show. Amanda, how are you today?
I'm doing great, Jean Claude. I'm so happy to be here. I'm just currently sitting out in my backyard underneath the grandmother tree here. And I'm sitting with my little fuzzy fur friend, Miss Diamond, my little American Eskimo. She's just sitting out here with me. So, yeah, I'm excited to be here and talk to you about the Serpent Mounds.
Absolutely interesting. I'm excited to have this show. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us here on this live interactive show. We will take your questions as we go along and put your comments up on the show. If you have any questions for Indigo, please put them in high caps. It's a little bit easier for me to pick up and to put on the screen here for our dear guest. Now, I love your backdrop. You look like you're in the jungle, and of course, it's appropriate for this episode's poster. I've always wanted to visit this site. So let's start by giving the audience here your first impression. Well, first of all, why did you go there? Why were you called just recently to visit Serpent Mound? And we'll start the conversation there.
Uh, Well, really, it all kind of started with me being with having such a strong Hydra origin in my galactic blueprint of my incarnation. So I'm always been called to serpent structures on the Earth. I've kind of been researching the serpent mounds for a couple years now, and I've wrote some detailed articles on the serpent mound alignment on the summer solstice, where the sun basically aligns to the head of the serpent mound and also the tail, which I realized that when I was there. And so I've just been really called to, I knew one day I would go there and kind of experience that alignment, and I'm really happy that I did. It is such a magical experience. I don't think I can fully tell you in words how just amazing it is. The ancients say that it is when where the actual marriage takes place of heaven and earth, where celestial consciousness merges with earth consciousness at that alignment. And so it's just a very profound place. They say there at the Serpent Mounds that the Adena culture is the one that, created or at least worked with and built their burial mounds there around that effigy mound. But essentially what makes it so special and so highly cosmic and extraterrestrial is that it's actually located in an ancient meteorite impact structure that's 9 miles wide. I like to say it's for the 9 heads of Hydra. But essentially it's just very symbolic, and it's a very magical place. And I can tell you, because me and you have interviewed at a lot of the other sacred places that I've gone to, particularly the Yucatan and Egypt, the Giza pyramids. I would say this place was by far the most spiritually sacred. I mean, there was not a lot of restrictions. The park security was very allowing in terms of letting you do sacred meditations there, filming. They didn't really interrupt these things. They just kind of let you partake in the summer solstice event. And so I was able to actually fully sage the entire effigy mound right before the sunset alignment, which was pretty amazing.
Wow, that's fascinating. I'm just scrolling through your video archive here of these interviews that you and I have recorded in the last couple of months, including, of course, Egypt and Latin America here. And so, folks, if you're looking for that on my YouTube channel, it doesn't exist anymore. So go check it out on Indigo's channel here. Again, you can find her at Indigo Angel, and she has a copy of all of these amazing interviews we've done together. Quite a fascinating time, and it's always cool to have her there live. Unfortunately, I missed the time slot where Indigo was here at Serpent Mound. It was Father's Day, and the kids did surprise me with quite a few activities on that day. So I didn't do any shows, and I ended up postponing 2 shows that were supposed on the schedule for that day. So I do apologize for that. So yeah, guys, go check that out, including this Mayan portal here too, because I think there's a lot of connections we're going to get to later on in the show here some of these meteor impacts on the planet, and how some of the sites have been chosen, or megalithic sites have been created or erected on those specific areas. And then the question will be why. So what's the energy there special to that? Now, let me bring back up here this idea of this alignment between heaven and earth. You were just talking about this earlier. Hold it. So this one here. Now, in the book America Before, I believe, with Graham Hancock, he talks about this too, that all of these sites around the world are very spiritual in that sense, that, you know, heaven meets earth. And here we're seeing the sun meet the earth here, and just pointing to the head of the serpent here. Now, what's the symbology for you? Let's get into that here. The serpent mound itself, the serpent, for a lot of people, the serpent is a very negative image, a negative icon. Some people relate it to, of course, reptilians. How do you, in respect to this particular site, attribute the symbology of the serpent?
Wow. Well, I'd have to say, you know, if you really look back into all of creation mythology historically, going from the Mayans to the ancient African cultures to the ancient Australian cultures, and kind of dive into the root of their creation stories, you'll find that the serpent is truly at the root of all of that mythology. So it's just the religious and biblical, I guess, defamation on a lot of level that has demonized serpent mythology, and has created this, I guess, belief construct within 3D capacities and limitations of idealisms of consciousness. And so that's kind of how I see it. I see it as a consciousness. I feel it's very connected to the thrones, the guardians, and also the seraphim, which is primordially a six-winged golden flying serpent, essentially. But those identities have ultimately been hijacked by prior existing grid overlays, and also soul collectives, particularly the leviathans that are controlled by the symbols of Baphomet, that have, you know, labeled and demonized a lot of these things. So it's all about, you know, how much you want to dive in your state of allowance, and begin to discover these new concepts of different types of serpent realities here on this earth that exist within many, many historical accounts of creation mythology on earth.
Right. Well, in Egypt, of course, you and I have talked about this when you were in Egypt, but let me bring this slide back up here. The serpent always represents enlightenment in some of these golden statue and headdresses. So there's that. And there's also the symbology here in the medical field, the two serpents coming up the shaft here. And of course, this relates to our Kundalini energy, raising that Kundalini energy for eternal life. So not all negative. So again, as Indigo is saying here, there's always more than meets the eye in these symbols. Now, why specifically the people who created this site here in North America used that particular symbol is interesting to me. Now, when you were there, you saw the plaques, the the writings, the descriptions of the site from officialdom, of course. What are they saying as to why they used the serpent here to create this site?
You know, there wasn't a lot of explanation other than they were relating a lot of the serpent mythology back to the serpent kings of the indigenous. And so that's where a lot of that came from. There's actually not a lot of explanation at the serpent mounds as to why or as to what they were created for. They kind of leave that open up to interpretation. And so I kind of feel like
you would wonder why that is. I'm sure somebody actually knows, but of course this seems to be obfuscated from the public at large. It's always fascinating to me. What was your thoughts on that? Was that your general feeling reading this too? Like, how come you guys don't know? I mean, this is a big historical fight. Why aren't you telling us more information? Did you go through that feeling, that realization?
Yes, but I also could see that it was the consciousness was capped for, a particular reason. even when I was speaking to some of the officials that worked there who were supposed to be, you know, the people like telling people about it, they really didn't even make a lot of the connections from the effigy mound to the meteorite impact itself. When I was asking about ablation spheres and the elemental compounds of the ground and all of these things, they were like, you know, I'm not sure how much of that is underneath it, or this and that. So it was kind of interesting. I think that, you know, information resources was, you know, capped for a certain reason. But essentially my overall take of it was that, you know, this effigy mound was built by like the original earth builders, the ancient earth builders that had that fifth dimensional template of the earth. They were the Taran soul collectives, like I said, carrying that living light energy of the thrones or the seraphim. And essentially it is based in creation-based technologies. Like this, I feel that this sacred site could not be even more obvious of our creation history. I mean, if you look at all of mythology throughout history, with the serpent being at the core, and then there is this effigy mound with the serpent right in a meteorite impact site. I mean, it's basically saying that our creation origins landed here on these massive meteorite ships, and it is the core and the foundation and the basis of our existence here on Earth. I mean, I do have a theory, because I am Hydra biased, that, you know, a lot of this pertains to the Hydra system, that these meteorites may have been sent by the Hydra radial intelligences, the Serpent constellation, through Jupiter's ghost. Because if you look at Jupiter and you look how it is placed within the asteroid belt, and there's actually the picture that I have that I sent you, you can see how Jupiter is in between the main asteroid belt, but then there are smaller asteroid systems along Jupiter's actual alignment in its rotation. The Greeks were very attuned to asteroids and comets and meteorite type intelligences. That's why these belts were named after Greek names. We have the Greeks and we have the Trojans over here in the green, that these are smaller asteroid systems. But essentially the creation story that upholds this asteroid belt is the explosion of Maldek. And
Wow, that's fascinating. You're opening up a whole bunch of slow down. There's a lot there. So going back to these ancient societies or peoples who created this. Now, in the last couple of years, and I was trying to bring this up as you were talking here, I'll bring up this image here. Hopefully that makes sense to you guys. But one of these supposed Anunnakis, Nephilim, was recently unearthed. And again, if you look at some of the work from Grant Hancock, there was accounts of these tall, red-headed giants living in North America a long time ago. And a lot of them went underground in hiding. And this one here, whether this story is true or not, this was on Discovery Channel. Apparently they had unearthed one of them in one of these mounds, and I forget what location this particular one was at. So I want to ask you, as you were there, you're very sensitive, you're very psychic yourself, did you feel that perhaps this mound, the Serpent Mound here in Ohio, is also a resting place maybe for these individuals, and that we haven't yet maybe uncovered them, at least here in officialdom?
I didn't associate many connections to them, but one thing that I did find the most interesting that could open up an Akashic field in connection to this is that I did notice that there were gravity anomalies in the meteorite impact site, which would make things fall faster. It would speed up reality fields that were associated to the impact site. And what I was picking up on is that my downloads were coming into me much faster. It was almost like everything about the trip was so hard. It was like the density started just quickly absorbing into my body. And the only thing that actually relieved me was when I was at the site itself. It was like, it was the only thing that was clearing all of me. And so what I had downloaded was that time portal passages were opening up. So, and it was within Indigo type 1s, Indigo type 2s, and it was that these cosmic grids were connected to the netting of the meteoric grid structures through the alchemical substances of our body, through the metals, through the iridium, through the gold, through the crystallization of our plasma, all of these things. And essentially, this was awakening the cosmic brain. I say the cosmic brain, but it's really a cosmic ultra electromagnetic field that exists within the earth grid structures of our body. And it was creating time portal passages that were essentially opening up for all Akashic timelines, all past lives to be perceived. All of this to be downloaded kind of in one instance that you could see the entire timeline of past lives, of the entire planetary field. Because the thing about meteorites, because they seem to represent the beginning and the end, right? Because everything that's come through meteorite impacts, all mass extinctions, basically, all mass awakenings, all mass extraterrestrial seedings, whether we want to kind of maybe acknowledge this historical aspect of our cosmic existence or not, because we have so much affiliation to Stargate systems and seedings through Stargate structures and how this accesses the race morphogenetic field, that it may truly have came from meteorite impacts, because of what is coming with these meteorites themselves, 100 different amino acids and proteins, genetic molecule makeups, everything, gold elements, everything is coming from meteorites. Even water is said to have came from meteorite impacts. So ultimately, what I'm trying to say is that it's a highly fundamental aspect to our existence, and that extraterrestrial seedings may have ultimately came through meteorite impacts. And that, so I was just seeing those time portal passages open, and it was like this time of year was actually initiating these alignments for those passages to open within particular beings, indigos, type 1s and 2s, that held these particular grid structures or cosmic abilities to access this etheric consciousness within their body. Those passages essentially would open, and the meteorite impacts were holding like timekeeper codes in the sites, essentially. And that's why I kind of wanted to show you that map that I had emailed you of all of the locations on Earth that were charted according. So yes, this map, essentially, this here, that's not all of the meteorite impacts that have ever been happened here on Earth, but these would be the largest and the oldest ever that have impacted Earth. And essentially, I'm suggesting that this grid may ultimately be the primordial cosmic grid that upholds the Stargate structures, that upholds the sacred sites, that upholds the ley lines, literally upholds continental landmass formations, because meteorite impacts, ultimately, the Chicxulub meteorite impact that we're going to talk about in just a second, this was responsible for the extinction of the dinosaurs and potentially responsible for the separation of the continental Pangea.
Wow.
And so, yeah, it's so deep.
Yeah. Okay. Again, you're going too fast. Hold on here, because I want to get to these meteorites one by one here. We have two that we're going to dive into today. But going back to the site itself, let me bring up this last picture here. This one's really cool with the light effects and the looks like a rainbow here also. Now, you and I have done these shows in the past, and we described to the audience that we get these energetic keys when we visit these sites, monolithic sites, or in this particular case, the Serpent Mound, but also meteor sites, and that we exchange these keys of energy. And for some reason, that has an effect on our DNA. Now, for you, you're just kind of alluding to that here. What was the big takeaway to maybe your energetic keys or downloads from having visited this site? Can you put those to words for the audience? Like, how did that trigger you, or maybe activate some of your dormant DNA or some of your memory DNA?
How did it do it? For me, there's no separation between one thought that enters like an impulse, like an electrical imprint that comes into my mind, and then I can see alchemical shift as it occurs inside of my body. And so I can see where the alchemical state of my body is threaded and interweaved into the cosmic mind aspect of my body. And it's just me being able to basically subatomically dissect myself.
Wow.
it comes through a lot of conscious self-exploration and spiritual devotion and study of quantum physics and quantum mechanics, and just making a lot of these synapses within my own mind as that energy influx comes into my consciousness, and I just begin to make those associations.
Now, I understand that, there's woo on my channel, there's the deep woo on my channel, and then there's Indigo Angel woo. So you're very, very far past that gate there, pass into the sacred knowledge. Now, perhaps I didn't ask that correctly. I asked how it affected you, and of course, you've done so much work on this, and you're explaining this at a very, very high concept level. So maybe I should ask you the question, how do people who are just starting on this path of connecting with their self, connecting with the grids around the planet, how would they be affected by visiting some of these monolithic sites or these meteoric sites around the world here in terms of accessing or remembering or maybe unblocking energies at the root chakra? What would be the typical response from the person who's starting on this path here to the woo? Let me ask you that way.
Yeah, well, I just want to say I'm sorry for going at such an expanded, accelerated rate. I've always just been told by guardian consciousness, and particularly by the Lyrans themselves, that I am to speak in a state of expanded consciousness because it is an activation in itself for others to receive. So that's actually what's happening. Even if you don't understand everything that I'm saying, it is actually activating your consciousness to those higher levels of vocabulary that will basically unlock those keys for you to be able to see into those parts of yourself. But essentially it comes
and sorry, don't get me wrong, Libby's saying here on the screen, they never explained it like this. Awesome, way to go, Indigo. A few other people are saying the same thing. I'm just trying to bridge the gap, maybe also for some of the new people coming onto the show as well, to keep them encouraged to at least listen and not feel so bad that maybe they don't understand everything you're saying yet, but eventually that will all unlock within them as well.
Yeah.
So
it's definitely not a comparison. Every journey is completely unique. Every blueprint is completely their own individual identity, and ascension is biological according to your own genetic makeup. And so it's all within that. And essentially the key to really getting as close as you can is really to work within the body. Everything in terms of, like you said, root chakras, traumas, the first 3 chakras of the body, and even all 7-dimensional chakras of the body, those really do have to be clear. Your vertical ascension column has to be clear. You have to sometimes do past life regression or trauma regression and go the extra step to get those immediate reality fields cleared, so that way you can begin to access higher dimensional levels of consciousness, existence, and realities. It works a lot with focusing on your own vertical ascension column and also in the higher dimensions as well. It takes a lot of putting in the work of really designing of what that interdimensional platform looks like for yourself and how to navigate within that. Mm-hmm. It's essential that you design or build those things from your own sovereign understanding of these things. So it's helpful to find other systems and schools and teachers and way showers that maybe have built those platforms for you. But your key to mastery is ultimately to get to a point that you can design those systems for yourself according to your own design of fractal field consciousness.
Very good. Okay. No, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And Spidey Dame is saying, yeah, I'm still trying to understand all of this. So thank you for that comment. Also, just wanted to cue this. Claudette Leblanc from Sudbury is saying that, of course, Sudbury is the biggest nickel deposit in the world. We can get to that in a second here. Well, actually, I'm going to tie this in with this one here. As you were talking about the meteorites and how they're affecting and maybe upholding the planet, in the notes that you sent me for the show, too, you talked about this crystal seed and these extraterrestrial matter really connecting here with Earth. And a lot of people now are walking around with pieces of these meteorites in the case of Moldavite. Now, what's your sense maybe of that impact at Serpent Mound? Is there either crystalline formations or other metallic formations that are off-world there that maybe were affecting, as you said, that gravity and that speeding up of time of that location? And then we'll also talk about Sudbury.
Yeah, I believe Sudbury is actually the 3rd largest meteorite impact crater on the globe, and they actually conducted Mars rover testing there and that. So I just wanted to say that real quick before that runs out of my brain. But also Shania Twain is from Sudbury. Yeah. But ultimately, I feel like I'm in an encyclopedia someday.
I thought you were going to say, I feel like a woman, Shania Twain.
Oh, what was
I have it on the map here. I'm pointing to Sudbury. Let me try to zoom in for the audience here who are not familiar with that neck of the woods. Where was that impact? Right here. There you go.
Yes, in Ontario. I don't know too much about it other than those few key points that I just pointed out.
Okay.
But I do know it's the third largest impact and the third oldest.
Well, perhaps a next visit for you. And if you come up here to Canada, I'll go to Sudbury with you. I've been many, many times in my life, and maybe Claudette will come and have a coffee with us as well if we ever make that trip. Now, going back to this idea of the multivite here I was bringing up, and my question with respect to Serpent Mound, were you feeling also that there was something either metallic, bimetallic, or crystalline formation here in the underground, and maybe explaining some of these anomalies that you were feeling there in terms of time, the speeding up of time, and the open consciousness transmission maybe to a higher level?
Yes, the thing I felt and noticed the most. Do I have a?
It had a bit of an echo there. Keep going. I think we're good.
It's coming through platinum rays and platinum metals. Okay, so iridium, and there's actually another substance, but these would be the highest elemental matter compositions, number 77 in the what's
chart? The elemental chart, you mean?
Yeah, the elemental chart sits right in the center of the elemental chart, which is very interesting. But yeah, the Serpent Mounds is supposed to have a high compositional alchemical state of iridium. And this is true for most meteorite impacts all over the world, that iridium, it's the element that actually I guess anchors higher consciousness into the reality fields here on Earth. You can actually ingest iridium. I haven't done it myself, but I have a couple of patrons who are giving it a try to give me some feedback to let me know what they perceive after they take some of the colloidal iridium itself. But as you know, you can ingest colloidal gold or ornament.
Silver, yeah, also, yeah.
And so it's supposed to be the most advanced metal that you can essentially ingest. So it's very interesting that the meteorite impacts also hold those compositions. They also hold, tektites and different type of meteorite impact stones. They also hold crystal spheres and ablation spheres that when it impacts the Earth. There was actually a lady that contacted me from the last time I was on your channel, Miss Donna Faulkner. So heads up to her. She's pretty amazing. She sent me some information on how when they impact, they actually implant galactic seeds of communication because they're called ablation spheres. And when they enter the landmass, it basically shards everywhere. And so it's crystals and iridium and different elemental metals and metals that we may not even know of or even were able to identify. Definitely amino acids we're unable to identify are coming with these impacts. So it's creating this galactic communication network within the Earth grids as well. So that's why they're so heightened, and that's why I say that they're probably fundamental, or why I'm saying this could be the true cosmic underlying grid of communication networks here on the Earth, because these sites are actually what are holding the alchemical composition of galactic information versus Stargate sites that were potentially created by meteorite impacts themselves.
Wow, that's fascinating, man. Wow. I just have 10 more questions. I'm like, oh, no, let's keep to our subject here. Every time I talk to you, I'm like, oh my God, we could do 4 more shows out of the 2 things you just said there. Okay, let's go back to Claudette very quickly. You mentioned, and to be fair, Indigo essentially doesn't know much about Sudbury yet, but if you tuned in now, as we're doing this live, what do you think is the significance of this site in Sudbury, perhaps that nickel in terms of this grid around the planet? What role maybe is that nickel deposit playing in all of this? If you were to tap in now as we're doing this live, what would you say?
I would say it's anchoring consciousness from the Maldek explosion that a lot of these meteorites potentially could have came from our own asteroid belt, and I'm not saying all of them are, but it's almost like this coming of full circle, that if you look back to the creation story of Tiamat basically being impacted, and that these asteroids are the fragmentations of Tiamat herself, which are the primordial serpent essence, maybe possibly re-impacting the Earth and bringing back our galactic history. That's why, the serpent mounds with the serpent, it's kind of like it's very obvious representation, but within Sudbury, I'm just, because of what has been done there, how they're doing those Mars rover testing to be able to, send our devices and our machines to Mars and explore and collect samples and stuff, that this is consciousness that's impacting, coming from the alignments of Mars and even Jupiter itself. So it's impacting potentially with this planetary intelligence for us to be able to even get to these locations. So it's kind of like this mutual relationship of information that's being, transferred.
Yeah, I remember as a kid, the first time I visited Sudbury, and we were just kind of driving up to it, and I was just looking at everything. It was so barren. I was like, "Are we on the moon? Are we on Mars?" Like as a kid, I was so fascinated. I come from a region where it's like very forest area, evergreen, and there, of course, it looked very, very barren. It's grown in since quite in the last 30 or 40 years here, but yeah. So I was just pulling up this article here that the Sudbury natives were aiding in NASA's rover hunt for life on Mars. So this is what you were just alluding here to. Okay, let's go back to that map. You had two specific sites around the planet that you wanted to talk about. So let me see here. The first one, how do you pronounce that? Rutherford?
That is Rutherford. So that is actually the oldest meteorite and the largest meteorite that's ever impacted the Earth.
Well, sorry, let me just zoom out so people can see that here for some reason. There you go. So let me go back so you guys can see where that is, and then I'll zoom back in. Okay, so southern tip of Africa here. Okay.
Yeah, and what's interesting about that is there's actually two more impacts surrounding that site.
Yeah.
You can kind of see there's two more there, but I think that's important to notate about this one particularly because, well, like I said, time portal passages are kind of opening up within these meteorite impact structures. So we're being able to see more into time. It's 2 billion years old. It's like definitely the oldest meteorite impact structure. What's interesting about this one is that it's in the center of gold fields. So they say that, it brought gold to this earth, and also it may have been the consciousness that brought forth the Khoisan people, which is, I think, the oldest African race in South America, because inside this crater site, from 8,000 years ago and even older, there's cavings of rain serpents from the Khoisan people inside of this crater, which they are now considered the modern day bush people, and they're actually kind of going extinct because of the way that society is treating them there in Africa, that they're not even really accepted by African culture there, that all their land has been taken, similarly to how indigenous people are.
How would you connect this to the stories of the Anunnaki coming here to mine gold? Of course, they were in Africa. We found the evidence of all of this mining. The word Adam, Adamu, it all connects to this region, or the Khoisan, and maybe related to that in some part. What are you feeling energetically on that?
I'm feeling a lot is still being revealed. I do feel that the meteorite impacts themselves may have been the original vessels or the original spaceships of the Anunnaki. There is a particular crater in Saudi Arabia called the Wabar crater that impacted there, that they may have been the landing vessels for the gods, or what had sent this consciousness to the earth in the first place to create these creation stories and this, information. But I think more is just revealing. I think we're slowly starting to catch up to the detailed manifestation of human origins and how much farther we actually go back into history is just breaking beyond the limitations of our mind. And that's what I mean by these time portal passages are essentially opening up, because they say that the Khoisan people go back 150,000 years, possibly even back 260,000 years, which completely defies everything. So it's unfolding, because basically history books have to completely be rewritten to even make sense of the current findings of things. So it's forever unfolding, and it's a lot to integrate into your consciousness, the vastness and the intricate expression of the planetary timeline.
Oh my god, bring your speaker volume down just a little bit. What do you make of this? Okay, are we back? All right. What do you make of this Risha structure, or what is commonly known as the Eye of Africa? Is this also a meteor impact? Has it been classified as that? Let me go back to the map.
I've been looking into that. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
It is supposedly the original Atlantis.
I know. I've seen those videos where people are saying there's a lot of similarities to Plato's accounts of it. So that's fascinating. Wow. Okay.
It looks very much like it could be a meteorite impact.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the only thing that would kind of make sense as to why it's circular like that.
Okay, let's get to the second. Anything else you want to say on that first one? Do you want me to?
Just the migration route picture. So I just felt that this was interesting.
I have a migration route picture?
Yes, I emailed you a picture that.
Oh, yes, I have that. Okay, sorry. Let me see that one here. Okay, there you go.
Okay, yeah. So you can see where it says like LO, that circle there.
Mm-hmm.
That's the point in which the Khoisan people expanded from South Africa over 8,000 years ago, or 150,000 years ago. So it's interesting that is literally the meteorite impact location. Okay, so I kind of have this theory that...
So was it a meteor or was it a spaceship? That's what you're alluding to.
It's both.
Yeah. Wow.
I kind of have
an escape pod, maybe.
Yeah. Well, they also say that the migration theory out of Africa may actually no longer be
valid.
True.
Yeah.
And so when you kind of think about how the meteorites are bringing forth these basically like literal human seeds for, RNA and DNA to basically flourish, with all kinds of diversity, it makes you wonder, because they say the actual rise of modern man was simultaneous all over the globe. So maybe this was a gravitational meteoric anomaly that actually defined the differentiations of human genetic diversity all over the earth. Right. Just because you look at how many meteorite impacts are all over the globe.
Right. Wow, that's fascinating. Again, rewriting the books of history, and I had these shows on YouTube in the last month entitled Beyond Disclosure, and we were talking to all of these guests about how maybe academia would be upended once we actually knew our true evolution here on the planet, where we come from, and maybe how we've been manipulated by off-world races. Anyways, those have been deleted from YouTube, but they're up on my private server now. If you guys want to go check that out at beyondmystic.net. /pay-per-view. You can check that out. Okay, so let's get to this second site that you had. It was this one here.
Yes, last but not least, this is my most favorite meteorite impact. I mean, I'm so just drawn to this one.
Okay.
This was 100 million megaton blast that basically just devastated the entire Gulf of Mexico region, the Yucatan. They say that it generated plasma of over 10,000 degrees 65 million years ago. It's basically the meteorite impact that killed the dinosaurs from the Cretaceous period. And they said it was equivalent to 7 billion Hiroshima bombs. So you can imagine. And I actually had dreams from envisioning this impact that it created tsunamis of nuclear radiation. So nothing could really, escape life from this. 75% of the planet was basically devastated. But what's interesting about this one is that what came from this impact would be potentially the Mayan culture itself. That there's a reason why this civilization is legendary timekeepers of our entire human existence. They were the civilization that basically nailed solar alignments, lunar alignments, Venusian alignments, galactic alignments, the entire structure in which frequency rotation actually takes place within the metagalactic core itself. I mean, it's just so beyond the intellect. So you have to kind of look back at this history of what came here, and it's like, wow, I mean, they truly were meteoric conscious civilization, because even the cenotes in the Yucatan were formed from that impact blast.
The cenotes. Oh yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, and the cenotes actually hold the geometric structure of the impact of the meteorite. It's crazy. Wow. It's crazy, right? Like, yeah. I know. I get so excited thinking about it. I literally just.
Absolutely amazing. Somebody was asking you on the chat too. So we've talked about the fact that maybe perhaps these were seeds of life, but Prosperity Now is asking, is it possible also that some of these meteorites, or what we think were meteorites, are actually weapons?
That's it. Potentially is true. Yes. There are some places on the earth. I have my notes here. There's this place called Well of Barhut. It's considered a portal to. Actually, don't have it here. It's considered a portal to the underworld, and the Mayans actually revered the cenotes as being, wells that you could access the whispers of the celestial gardens, but they were also wells that took you into the underworld. And so,
right.
Again, I think in totality that it is so cosmic that maybe we don't fully understand the alchemical involvement of how meteoric consciousness can open up those time portal passages. And when time portal passages open, there is no separation from the living world, the underworld, past lives. It's like those veils and those crystal seals and all of those shields that are in the way of allowing you to be able to access the differences of those realms, that subsides. So I feel ultimately what will be birthed in the future is our understanding of how occult chemistry completely explains and defines our cosmic history here. And that has yet to actually truly be discovered. And I feel like that's the key to our gnosis of why we're actually here in the first place.
Wow. Fascinating show. Let me show some of the pictures of you here doing some meditations and connecting to the grounds here at the Serpent Mound. Where are you here? Is that midway through the path? What am I looking at?
Yeah. So the head of the serpent is down behind me, and the tail is up in front of me.
Okay.
And when I was there, there was actually some people who recognized me. They were like, Indigo Angel. And I was like, oh my gosh. I was so excited that they knew who it was.
Isn't that cool? Isn't that cool? Oh my God.
It was so cool. I actually met a guy there around at that spot. His name was Cave Wizard. And he was kind of a hippie dude, just, kind of unattached to anything in life, really. And he was like, I'd like to take you down into the underwater serpent cavern, the secret, sacred place here. And so if you go down and exit the Serpent Mounds and walk around, there's actually this underground. It's not underground, but it's just like down into the land, but it curves into the cliff of the Serpent Mounds. And then below there's actually a serpent snake formation that's also an additional sacred area.
Did you send me pictures of that? No, I don't have that, right?
I didn't, but I recorded all of that on the last activation that I did on my channel. I also have the exact alignment on my channel as well. When
which one are the? Okay, let me. Oh wait, hold on a second. I'll play this quick video because I had to change decks to change this. This is you smudging here. just so people can
Yeah.
have a feel from. Wow, that's absolutely amazing.
Oh, it was so amazing.
Yeah.
I was actually standing on. They have a tower that you climb to the top of there, and
Wow.
yeah, and it's so shamanic. It's so spiritual. Everybody there just really knows what it's about, and it makes it easier to really get into that vibe because
Yeah.
everyone else around you is already there too. And
Yeah, and the grounds are also like, what's he say? Compulsory, not compulsory, but they're helping in that energy and that frequency, putting you all on that same page. Okay, so talking about those pictures, I was asking you, which
Okay.
video are they looking for the audience here if they want to check that out?
So the shooting star is not just a star. That was kind of a creative video that I did. But towards the end of it, I go down into that area. So if you fast forward through,
Hold on a second here. Okay,
it's me being, you know, how I do.
artistic. I love it. I love it. Wait, hold on. Let's show this to the audience as well. Okay. Now, how much further in do I need to go?
There, I'm walking towards it there.
Okay.
And you'll see Cave Wizard here pretty soon.
Let's see
He was
what?
such an awesome guy.
Okay, hold on. Do I need to scroll a little bit further? Oh, there you go. Okay, let me scroll up a little bit. You want me to play the video? The audio?
I want to show you this.
You could play it when he speaks, yeah, because he kind of.
I love you. I'm that indigo angel up there at the top of the cliff by the Serpent Mound, and we came down here to this cool little grotto under this cliff face here by the head of the underwater serpent. It's another like sacred place here that that's right next to the Serpent Mound. Last time I was here, there was an eagle perched in the tree right over there. It's very cool.
So this is the head rock of the serpent?
Yeah, this diamond, the triangle-shaped rock here is the head rock, and then there's the other one behind there, and there's another one we can kind of see, and then they go out under the water, more rocks that, like the other later rocks, it kind of looks like people piled them up and
Wow.
made a pier going out into the...
It was all covered.
Yeah.
The water was high.
So the
The water
serpent
was
is
Hold on a second here. I couldn't hear you. Okay, go ahead, Indigo.
So you can't see the remaining rocks that create that snake from the head rock because the water level's high. But when the water goes down, it's clearly a serpent formation right underneath the cliff of the Serpent Mounds.
Wow. I'm guessing again here, just like everything else, as above, so below, there's probably more even below here to discover that is yet made inaccessible to us mere humans here. So I'm curious how maybe some people would eventually access these sites and how this information will eventually come out. Absolutely fascinating. Wow. Well, thank you for sharing that video. So folks, go check that out. Sorry, I'm losing my voice. And go check that out at Indigo Angel here on YouTube. Let me bring that link down to live chat so you guys can go click on that. All of her links are in the description box below. And of course, Indigo, you can find her on her website at indigo222here.com. Here she's got a series of books, meditations, classes, just amazing stuff. So if you're getting into this here and perhaps you're interested in getting a starseed origin reading, you're trying to figure out maybe what your place is in all of this amazing story here on the planet, do go check it out. What would you recommend to the audience here today who want to reach out to you and maybe get some personal insights on how they connect to all of this stuff? Indigo?
It really just depends where you'd like to start. You could dive in with your starseed origin reading and, you know, get that first initiation into your galactic blueprint to dive deeper into your cosmic identity. You can always do an Akashic record reading as well that would kind of allude off of the starseed origin reading, or you could dive into the interactive services. I offer the J seal removal, which is they're considered death seals from the Atlantean timeline, essentially. It's a very thorough 15-dimensional clearing and healing. There's 2 different healings we actually do in that session. And then I also offer the AMP session, which is much more detailed DNA attunements and just interactive work to get you to those heightened levels of psychic ability. And yeah.
Very cool. And what's this I see here, Beyond Mystic special? Let's get into that here.
Yes, so I created that special on behalf of Jean-Claude and all of our amazing interviews and sessions and videos we do together. And so this includes the Starseed Origin reading, 1 hour spiritual consultation to either go over that reading and also prepare one for the J seal removal, which is also included in that package. And then there is a discount code called Beyond Mystic 3 that will actually take 10% off of that package that's already marked at 10% off. So
Wow,
I think
okay.
it's down to $350.
So that's a lot of value there. So all of those services are in here. You had the discount code by yourself. And on top of that, Beyond Mystic have another 10%. Is that what I'm getting here?
Correct.
Okay. And what is the coupon code for our audience for this one?
It's Beyond Mystic, all lowercase 3 for your third YouTube channel.
YouTube channel. Yeah, I know. Imagine that. And folks, do check out also her book. There's quite a bit in here. Very fascinating. And at the very least, the Starseed Origin, when Indigo did mine about a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, 2 years ago now, it was absolutely fascinating. And it ties so much in. And every time I go back and read at it a couple months later, I find more and I understand more. So, if you don't get it all the first time.
What were your primary origins? Because I don't remember.
Oh my God. Now you're putting me on the spot. I don't remember. Well, I had a lot of Orion and what was the other one? Not Arcturian. I was surprised. There was another one. Oh my God.
Is it Lyran?
Yes. Orion, Lyran, and there was something else too that was odd. I was just like, what is that connected to? You and I were supposed to do a 1 hour session after. We never did. We're always so busy and we do all these shows for everyone and we forgot to do it. But yeah, maybe you and I should reconnect and look at that because I still had questions. I had written notes down for you. So we'll get back to that. Okay, so folks, if you're interested in getting all of this, check it out at Indigo Angel. I'll bring the link here down in the chat. And
whenever you get some time, Jean-Claude, I would love to do the J seal removal for the patrons. I just feel it would be a really good way to show people what the session is all about.
Right.
And also just have an interactive experience. It's really, really good. It's gotten so much better.
Very cool. So folks, if you were on my Patreon already, Indigo here has done quite a few Patreon shows with us, including this really cool crystal meditation. I forget what it was called a couple of weeks ago. That is now unfortunately deleted. Those videos were on YouTube. Are they still on your channel, that meditation, that crystal
I believe
induction?
they're probably not because they were on your YouTube channel.
And you didn't have a copy for your Patreon of that one? You remember?
No, I used your link to upload it.
Shoot. Okay. So, folks, that's what happens here when YouTube are playing around and trying to prevent you from getting access to all of this information. Okay, so going back to that link here, you can find Indigo's website if you're watching this on replay as well in the description box below. The coupon code is also there. It's Beyond Mystic, one word, 3 at the end, so the number 3. So Beyond Mystic 3 is the coupon code. And of course, you can also follow her to get into a lot of these meditations, J-seal removals, visualizations, inductions of some of these crystal technologies on her Patreon site. Let's talk about that here. Let the audience know what they can find here on your Patreon. Indigo.
Everything that I don't put on YouTube. It's really the core foundation of my own spiritual work. A lot of visualizations and meditations that I've designed over the last few years that are strategically designed to expand consciousness, to clear out the chakra system. It starts from everything's in video format. That starts from the basics of grounding techniques all the way to taking sacred communion, all the way to protecting and sealing your light body field, to the core strengthening visualizations to enhance telepathy, remote viewing by location. We work on Stargate attunements, grid scanning and accessing those things through remote viewing, and then eventually we get to the point of astral traveling and interactive channeling and astral traveling, and it's ongoing. It's just a never-ending process of visualizations that are in video format, or if you choose to do the 4444 package where you actually work with me once a month and do the interactive sessions, which are yeah, they're amazing. I have quite a few people doing them right now, and just every single person is completely different at a different level of their process, and it's really fun to be a part of it.
Awesome. So folks, do go check that out at patreon.com/Indigo Angel. And if you subscribe there, let her know that you're coming from the Beyond Mystic audience. I'm sure she'll appreciate that. And folks, please do remember, if you just found me again here for the third time here on YouTube, please remember to hit that subscribe button. We're trying to rebuild a community that was just, of course, recently taken away. And of course, today is July 1st. If you guys are interested in giving a try at our Patreon, where you have access to all of our pay-per-view material, you can do so here by clicking on the Insider Access Pass. There, of course, you have access to all of our pay-per-view, which are the uncensored version of everything that YouTube is deleting also at their end. So there's quite a bit in this gallery here, and we keep adding more and more and more. And we're also going to re-include some of these visualization and meditation videos that we had produced, Indigo and I. So we will be putting that back on here very soon. So thank you so much, everyone, for supporting us here on Beyond Mystic. And thank you so much for supporting, again, Indigo Angel here. That was the Serpent Mound edition. And stay tuned. In the very, very near future, hopefully in the next 2 weeks, we'll get Indigo back here. We're going to do that J-Sil removal also for the Patreon folks, and we're going to get into another absolutely amazing topic. There's so much to discover with her. It's like there's not enough hours in every day. But I promise within the next 2 weeks, we'll get Indigo back, and we're hopefully going to do at least 2 episodes a month moving forward here. There's so much material coming up in global consciousness, and I think that Indigo has such a beautiful way of explaining all of that and bringing that down to our galactic level here so that we can activate some of our DNA memory. So merci beaucoup, Indigo. I love you. Thank you so much, Indigo. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining us here today. Again, I'm Jean-Claude.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe, folks. Have a great day and happy Canada Day. Au revoir.